We back and we back. Zeus P, Tank Jew. Let the light in, man. It's the 2-hour lunch break, dog. I'm locked in. So turn your speakers up a notch and grab the white gin. And when I'm on the road to the office or the crib, it's Big Zeus, Ain't Jew, the ones I wanna hear. This is that 2-hour lunch break live from Lady Bird J Lake. Coming to you live, putting on for the city. This is that 2-hour lunch break live from Lady Bird J Lake.
And it's coming home to Texas. It's coming home all the way to Austin, Texas, baby.
And welcome back to the 2-Hour Lunch Break Podcast, a podcast for Austin, from Austin. Today, we're joined by someone who truly embodies what it means to lead, build, and give back to the community. Our next guest is a native Austinite, first-generation daughter of Trinidad and Tobago, and a powerhouse community leader, philanthropist, equity expert, and author. She is the co-owner of Austin Woman Magazine, the founder of Black Leaders Collective, co-chair of the Black Fund at the Austin Community Foundation, and the CDO at Creative Action. She's also the visionary behind Glam Beauty Bar, proving that she can move with equal impact in tech, beauty, business, and social change. Her work has earned her recognition across Texas, most recently being named Texas Black Alumni Network Alumnus of the Year. And if it wasn't enough, she's also added children's author to the list with her release of City We Built, Black Leaders of Austin, celebrating the trailblazers who shaped the city's Black history. But beyond the titles, she is a wife, a mother of 2 young children, and a woman whose faith and determination fuel everything that she does. We're honored to have her with us and talk to her about her journey. We got Mrs. Terry P. Mitchell in the building. How are you today?
Oh, Zeus, I'm so good. Better now. That was so sweet. I'm like, who is that woman?
Right. You know, I know we were talking about it off air. You're a woman of many talents. You got a lot of pots on the stove, so we had to bring you in the right way.
Thank you. You did that.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I said, while we're at it, let's go ahead and dig into your background.
Okay.
Right? So I know we talked about it earlier. You're a native Austinite and also a first-generation descendant of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
How did those two influences, Austin and your Caribbean roots, shape your early identity growing up?
Yeah, such a good question. I mean, they both, make up who I am today. I call myself a country Caribbean.
Okay.
Right.
Got it. I like that.
And
okay.
so I have a twang of both. Never really fit in anywhere, but kind of fit in everywhere. And I think that stems from that background. I was born and raised in Old East Austin. I say that intentionally.
Yep.
At a time where there were Black people and brown people that owned that part of the land and had businesses and, provided for one another, supported one another. And I seen quite the same similarities. I see that all the time in Trinidad. Yep. Trinidad is very much a Black and brown ecosystem where the prime minister, which would be considered the president here in America, is a Black person, right? Or brown, just depending on the campaign. Those that own the grocery stores, the hospitals, the restaurants, they're Black and brown, right? And so I've come from a space where I've seen excellence at a high level. And very early on and growing up in Austin, I've seen that same trend. Unfortunately, as we both know, things have changed quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And I miss it very, very much. And so because I know the standard that Black and brown people have in terms of excellence, I want to help in any way, shape, or form to see that to fruition again back here in the city. So my background of being both from the Caribbean and being from Austin has shaped me in more ways than one, but more importantly, it has made me proud of Black people, and I never forget who we are, even when we're being erased or oppressed. I know our value, our worth, and the reason why we're being attacked, and no one can ever make me forget that. And anytime that my memory starts to slip, I can simply go to Trinidad and see it all over again every single time, and bring that energy right back here to the city.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So, question for you. I know, and your story as a Black Austinite is pretty similar to a lot of other Black Austinites that have grown up here and kind of seen the rapid changes that have happened over the years. And a lot of Black Austinites talk about feeling both pride in being from Austin and also having like a sense of displacement.
Yeah.
Right. How have you personally navigated that, as someone who has stayed and, kind of, built here?
Yeah, it's a twofer for sure. And to your point, right? The pride comes from the fact that we truly did build this city. No
Right.
pun intended on my book, but the reality is, Black people since the late 1800s did build this city, hand by, brick by brick. And so the pride is there. I'm proud because we are the last generation to actually see a city, see Austin, and the progress that Black people made here. We were the very last generation to ever see that, right? And so I'm proud. I'm proud to have been able to see, restaurant owners, barbershop owners, coming out of East Austin, some that are still here to this day. So I'm proud because I've seen something different, something that this current generation may never get to see, or at least we'll see it later on in life, ideally. And then there's a lot of trauma around it too, driving through East Austin, it makes me really sad, because I think we all knew that there needed to be change. I don't think that we were expecting complete erasure.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And it makes me feel, it brings about this paranoia, so to speak, because you kind of feel like whenever they're dangling, the systems that be the man, when they're dangling something glittery in your face, that essentially that's not for you, and they're looking to redesign or reinvent or move us out, right? And so we get concerned whenever we see a new building come up or a new road being built, and much of that is happening right here in Austin. We know what that means for us. I'm traumatized. Where I was born, the hospital's no longer there. Brackenridge Hospital is no longer there, right? I walk down the street sometimes or drive down the streets of East Austin and see people that don't look like me in the middle of the night walking their dog, right? Where we had to be in the house before the lights came on, and it really, really upsets me because it means that the city always had the resources, but never invested in Black people and waited till the moment where we weren't really looking and, came in for the kill. And that really sickens and saddens me, that a place like Austin that claims to be progressive and claims to be, democratic and all about, love for all, there's truly an underlying tone that we're not discussing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I prefer folks that are a little bit more aggressive in who they are versus being covert and acting like they care when they really don't.
At least you kind of know what you're dealing with up front.
Let me know what I'm dealing with. Yeah, don't play in my face. And all along, you have a different agenda. That to me is the worst type of people.
Gotcha.
And we see that a lot here in the city, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know, digging into your background, I saw you come from like a family of self-made leaders, activists, advocates. With that said, what was your earliest moment you knew like entrepreneurship and community leadership would, be the path that you were going to go down?
Yeah, entrepreneurship and community leadership is just who my family is to the core. Again, my family's from Trinidad and Tobago, and so very early on, what I knew was we are responsible for each other.
Right.
In the islands, there's no such thing as isolation. There's no such thing as, this is mine and that's not yours. When one person is hurting, everybody is hurting, right? And when one person is up, we all celebrate. I've only known community from my parents and from where they were from. And so for me, that is what they've always exemplified, was that when we grew up, unfortunately, my dad ended up on drugs, and there's a whole story there, but I always knew love from him, and nonetheless, but it left my mother to pick up the pieces. And my mother didn't have much. She was raising 3 girls, single, no formal education, from Trinidad and Tobago. And she always made ends meet and always found a way to give back the little that we had, she was always giving it back. There was someone that, was staying with us when we didn't even have a bed for them, right? Like she always made room. And so it really always, I'm always reminded of the responsibility. No matter how small you have enough to give somebody else. And in the same breath, entrepreneurship. My father came over here. He used to, have a construction business. He used to have a mechanic shop. My grandfather in Trinidad had a mechanic shop. My grandmother in Trinidad was a seamstress and made everyone's dresses, everyone's clothes. Back in, like, a lot of us migrated to from Trinidad to New York. We had clubs. My uncle's club, my Uncle David's club, broke out 50 Cent. No matter how you feel about him.
Okay,
he was a breakout store because of that's where he would rap, to engage and to make his name aware. And so it was that level. I've always seen that. I've always seen the hustle. Right. Caribbeans, we have 2, 3, 4, 5 hustles at a time because at the end of the day, there is no welfare system there, right? There is no credit system there. You eat what you hunt, right? And so that is the blood of which runs in my body is the same thing. No matter what, you eat what you hunt, right? And so, community service and entrepreneurship are very important to me. And I pray to make that very important to my children as well.
Got it. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So I know we were talking about this earlier. You've launched businesses in beauty tech, media, and social impact, right? So each of them require like a different set, sets of skills. What ties all of them together for you? Like, how do you make all of that work in one person? Because that seems like a job for multiple people.
Yeah. Well, for one, with everything in me, I take life very seriously. I can't stress that enough, Zeus.
Right.
And I've always been the type that had many tabs open in my head, multiple tabs open in my head, multiple aspirations, wanting to do all of the things. And I'm very serious about ensuring that before I leave this earth, every single one of those dreams are at least tried, right? I'm also one to never be afraid of failure because I do believe that failure is not a negative. Failure only helps you, sets you up for your next win, right? You're only as good, people say, as your last success. I say as your last failure, right? Because when you fail, you learn from that. And if you are courageous enough, you'll bounce back with better tools for the next time, right? Success sometimes can debilitate people and make them content, right? And so for me, I lean into failure because I know that it's the setup for my next big thing. And so I've failed a whole lot more in business than I've ever succeeded. I think the thread is that, I have all of these dreams and I want to try it. And so if there's anything that I am passionate about, I like, or that I want to divulge into, I'm going to try it, right? I can't reiterate enough that I've failed more times than I've succeeded. I've probably started upward of 20 businesses and truly only have like 4 or 5 successful businesses, right? The thread, honestly, in business, when you get to a certain space where you've done business enough, you realize that business, there's a system to business. Like every business has a certain system that has to be followed, no matter what the industry, the vertical is. There's essentially a pathway, a simple pathway for every single business that works the same. And for me, it's all about building strong teams. People ask me what my thread to success is, and it's about building strong teams that are bought in and that can move those businesses well before you, right? You know that you have a successful business when you don't have to be there every day, right? When the system is running without you, you know that your business is successful. And so, of course, in the beginning, you have to do, whatever it takes to get the business going, to bring on the team, and you're in the thick of things a lot, learning all of the, the nuances. But over time, if you're doing it well, you bring on people that have better skills than you in different areas. And over time, you replace yourself. And so for me, it's about learning true team management, true leadership, what psychologically makes a team member buy into the system, buy into the business, and owns their portion of the business almost as if it's their own, right? That is when you know that you have a successful business, when your team is strong.
There we go.
Yeah, and has clear instruction on how to move. So more than anything, I consider myself a team facilitator. You know, I'm not a leader.
Yeah.
We're all leaders, right? I am a facilitator. I know where you need to be, where I'm at, right? And I move you around in order for the success of the business.
I say you almost sound like a coach.
Well,
you know?
I mean, I think to some degree you are a coach. I think the best leaders are the best coaches, the best business coaches, and you're constantly teaching your team member how to become better, how to hone in on their skills, how to strengthen their weak spots, and how to leverage their strengths. The best teachers, the best leaders know how to do that for their team over and over again until you're no longer needed in that position.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk Austin Women Magazine.
Yeah.
Right. So matter of fact, congratulations on that, founding that.
Thank you.
So with a publication like that, what role do you feel like Austin Women Magazine plays in amplifying women's voices in a city where representation can often feel limited at times?
Yes, absolutely. I am so proud of Austin Women Magazine. We are filling a huge gap.
Okay.
The data shows that women make up 75% of giving decisions, and they make up 90% of buying decisions, as well as health decisions for their household, right? But unfortunately, for whatever reason, the media and so on and so forth, we still try to oppress women. We still, try to make it seem as if they're not of value when they are in fact the most valuable player. No shade to my men. Shout out to the men. I got a husband. I love him too. He has an incredible role as well. But when I think about who's buying the groceries, who's setting the appointments for you to go to the doctor and things like that, it is normally, not always, but a lot of the time, the woman, right? Yeah. And now more than ever, certainly since the 70s, you're seeing this huge uptick in women entering the workforce, becoming CEOs and C-suite players at work. You're starting to see way more women entrepreneurs of all colors, shapes, and sizes. And so what this magazine does is it creates a space for women entrepreneurs and career-driven women to not feel so isolated, right? Yeah. To know that they are not alone, to address the challenges and the issues that they're facing in their own spheres together. And what I do know to be true is when women come together, one woman by themselves is a force, but several women together, we could legitimately take over this planet, right? We can legitimately take over this planet. And so for me, it is an incredibly important role what Austin Women is playing for Austin, for Central Texas at large, creating a safe and brave space for women to learn how to, do better, to be better, to be stronger, to feel a sense of empowerment so that they can go back into their workforce where they are sometimes considered the B word for being the same thing, the same boss that their male counterparts are, right?
Like they would
and
call him that, call her that, and call him assertive.
Exactly.
Like that,
Exactly. It's absolutely insane, but it's the truth, right? Yeah. And all the reasons why the president today isn't a woman, right? For those same issues. Strong women truly intimidate people, right? Not everybody. I think there's a certain caliber of folk that appreciate a strong woman, but for the most part, we can be intimidating. And so, and even to our own counterparts as women, it can be very hard for a career entrepreneur-driven woman to speak to their, fellow woman that doesn't understand, and doesn't care for the workplace, which is their decision, and it's a valid one to make, right? Because the home should be your most important and first priority. Yeah. So I don't knock that at all. But sometimes as an entrepreneur or as a career woman, it can be very hard for you to relate, right? And a lot of your friends may not be as driven, and so coming around minds that are like you, like minds, is essential to your growth, right? Where you feel valid, where you feel validated, where you feel appreciated, and where there's a space where you can learn and grow versus dumbing yourself down or dimming your light to be in that current sphere. So we play an incredible position. We've been around for 20 years. I'm actually a co-owner, not a co-founder. I came on 5 years ago, and was asked by the founder to come on as a co-owner, and I'm really proud of that. She was looking to diversify the audience, and so she brought 8 very heavy hitters in different demographics, be it race or sexual orientation, so on and so forth. And it has been a smash hit, right? We've served over 300,000 women throughout the country. We have the biggest women-based award shows. It is a phenomenal thing to see women of all colors coming together to celebrate each other, to learn from each other, and to love each other. It's a beautiful space.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So since starting with Austin Woman magazine, is there like a story or a feature from the time you've been there that's like really stuck out for you personally and kind of like reminded you why, this type of work matters?
Yeah, absolutely. The one that's coming up for me has been Miss China Smith with Ballet Afrique.
Okay, yeah, I've heard
Yeah,
her.
she is phenomenal. And she has been in the game for about a decade, probably a little bit more than that. And she was a cover woman well before I was a co-owner. I actually seen her, I'd seen some issues in my apartment complex with her on it, and I read it. And, it just talks about a woman that broke into the arts where it was predominantly a white space, and how her as a little girl had aspirations of not just being a ballerina, but seeing other Black ballerinas take over the vicinity. And she, with little to nothing, did that. And now to this day, she has a studio right in East Austin, still holding it down. There's glass windows, and you can go and you can watch real ballerinas twirling all around. And I'm really inspired by her because, it could be an incredibly intimidating thing to enter a market that seems like it's only for a certain demographic, right? And I can only imagine the amount of no's that she's received before, gaining the notoriety that she has today. And she still persevered nonetheless. And I can't imagine what Austin would be without her now. I've been able to now meet her later after reading that story and helping her, supporting her in different ways. And now my baby cousin, has a full ride scholarship to the University of Texas as a ballerina, right? There's another one that came out of the program around the same time as my cousin, and she goes to the Harvard Dance Academy, right? And so she is not just creating dancers, she is providing a quality of life that may not have been afforded to these ballerinas beforehand, right? Her little bitty self, 5'4" at best, is mighty, right? And ferocious and determined. And she turned her dream into something that, is bigger than her, right? She's creating legends, and she's a living legend right here on earth as well. So I think about her a lot, and anytime I want to give up, she's one of the people that reminds me that the work that I do is much bigger than who I am. These are seeds that we're planting that we may never be able to sit under, right? The shade of. We are doing this for the next generation and the generations to come. And I'm really proud of her for that.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's actually like Austin is such a small world because the fact is my oldest daughter actually took classes with her.
Really?
When she was at her previous studio off Cameron Road.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's a little while back. Okay, so it's been a little while.
Then. So I knew about her then. So to see the progress she's made to now, it's been amazing.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And there's bumps and bruises along the way. Certainly being a Black owner, black founder, but to continue to keep going, in the midst of all of that is what I'm most proud of her for. Awesome. Yeah.
So let's talk about your book, right? So I know we're talking about The City We Built.
Yeah.
Black Leaders of Austin. So I know your book, it highlights local Black trailblazers. So with that said, what gap do you see in representation that made you want to write this book in the first place?
Such a good question. Gaps, all the gaps, right?
Okay.
It's so interesting. We were both born and raised here in Austin. And out of the 26 leaders that are highlighted in the book, I knew of 2 of them. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So being born and raised here, right in Old East Austin, and not knowing these figureheads and their history and what they've done for this city, I find that to be by design.
Yeah.
I also consider that to be incredibly problematic. If I would have had this book as a guide as a little girl, I probably would have been in a whole different place myself, because representation is incredibly important. You don't know that you can be something until you see it yourself, right? And, going through the book, you have, educators, you have business owners, you have superstar sports talent, right? You have writers and, authors and, entrepreneurs. It's just a slew of excellence. You have activists, right, that have done the work. And so for me, it serves a huge gap, because whenever I see children of all colors, it doesn't matter if they're black or white or brown, it doesn't matter the color, they light up like a light bulb, right? For the black little girls and boys, they can see that they can be absolutely anything, not because somebody said that they can, but because somebody's already done it. There's already a blueprint for you. And for little white kids, I love when I go into predominantly white institutions and I get to hang with the babies, the little white babies. Those sweet, sweet babies, they light up even more because they are thirsty. They are hungry for that knowledge too.
Yeah.
And they're a different breed, right? They're not tolerating the negativity, the racism, or anything else like that. I hear them advocating, and trying to cover us in the best way that they know possible too. But it changes their thought process about Black people, right? From what the media shows you, right? The negative perceptions. And children are sponges, right? So they take that and they automatically think that Black means negative. Well, when they see this book, they realize that is a fallacy. That is not real, right? And that there have been people that have been the hidden gems, right here in this city, that have done the work and have laid the path for them as well, right? And they can see things differently, and they look at the Black girls and boys in their classes differently. They advocate differently after the book, and so I'm really proud of it. The book came about because I started an organization called Black Leaders Collective, and that was in 2020. And this is right off the back of the George Floyd movement and what was happening here locally with Mike Ramos. And I never had any aspirations to start a nonprofit. I just simply wanted to bring Black leaders together to talk about how we were showing up for each other during these times and how we could do better around that. And so at the time, I just brought together 40 leaders to have a conversation. And, out of that conversation, there was a call from several of them to continue the conversations around two topics. One was how to address our internalized racism. And the second one was to set a collaborative 7-generational plan around what liberation looks like for us in Central Texas, right? Not one plan from one organization or one person, but a shared collective plan that when we're all at the table creating the plan, we could be bought into, right?
Gotcha.
And so we did both of those things. And one of the things that some of our elders said is, hey, I see y'all doing, y'all have these plans, but y'all probably want to start with knowing your history, right? You need to know the leaders that have been doing this work. A lot of this work already sounds familiar to me, right? These are our elders, talking. And thankfully for them, the team decided that we needed to go and started to, pull, to learn more about leaders that came before us and their agendas, their priorities, the work, the legacy that they left, right? And at the time I had a baby, and so we're archiving all this history. One of the collaborators with BLC is Carrie Adams with the Carver Museum, and we're having these conversations about the history. We're learning about these figureheads, and I'm also had a baby, and we're reading books, right? Children's books, but the books are about global figures. No shade to that, right? But you're talking about like the Obamas and the Oprahs, and that's very important history, of which I love. But for me, I was thinking, how effective would it be if my child knew the history of the leaders right here in her city, right?
Yeah.
And so I brought that back to the team, and at first they were kind of like, I don't know, whatever. And I was like, I'm telling you, we're onto something here. This is bigger than Black Leaders Collective. The world needs to know about these leaders.
Yeah.
And so 3 years later, about 2023 or so, we published it, we launched it. It has been a huge hit. I didn't know that I was creating a history book. I didn't know that I'd be, the book would be in different schools, universities, middle schools, elementary schools. They're buying it in bulk. They're making it a part of their cultural studies and ethnic studies classes. I'm really, really proud of that, and then, for the students and the children, that's important. But I also find it important for the adults to get this history. And so that's why the book is, at a fourth grade reading level, but the pictures are so beautiful that it could be a coffee table topper, right? I wanted it to be something that everyone could relate to.
Yeah.
And I think we have a smash hit. In fact, I know we do. I'm really proud of it. Really, really proud of it.
I mean, I know a reason I'm a big fan of it, because I know, number one, it undoes a lot of that societal conditioning that you were talking about.
Yeah.
That, we're exposed to literally from birth.
That's exactly right.
Right? And then on top of that, you get like real tangible, just tangible people that that are in your community that have done these great things that you might have not known about before. But now there's somebody that's doing, well, not somebody, people that are doing something in the city that I live in, or that they live in, and that's a huge impact on people coming up. So
it's a huge impact, and for me, one of the things that I was terrified about was how the descendants of the leaders were going to take it, right? I had that in the back of my mind the entire time we were publishing this, like, oh my gosh, what if the descendants find that shouldn't be, telling the history of their great giants, and and so for me that was scary, very scary, and I invited them in before the launch, as many as I could find in before the launch, and they were so receptive and so loving and so grateful that I would, be a part of ensuring that history stayed relevant, right? Because we're so quick to forget. And in fact, again, the designs of the system don't want you to know that history, because that's power. When you know your history, you could also forge your future, right? And so that is power in a book. And so, but they were so grateful, so honored, and many of them have pushed the book much further than even I could. So I'm really grateful for that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So one thing that stuck out for me, I know you were talking about earlier, as far as a long-term vision for what Austin can be in the future, right?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, how do you balance that and also the urgency of fighting inequality in the here and now?
Yeah. That's such a good question. And, I think the fighting the inequality in the here and now is a very hairy subject, because I do believe that the system is designed to have you chasing your tail, right? And so if you are now focused on what's happening today, and then you focus on what's happening tomorrow, and then you got to focus on what's happening next week, you never really make a lot of progress. And it's almost like a moving target. And I think the design is made for you to do that. If you think about what's happening in this current climate, there's some sensationalist column or issue happening every single day. You can almost, your head could spin just trying to keep up with the news. I think that is by design, because when they're dangling a carrot over here, you're not worried about the cabbage patch that's happening over there, right? And so they're in the cabbage patch doing all that, rooting up the cabbage, while you're over here focused on the carrot. You're focused on the wrong thing. And so what's happening with the work that I do is we're very clear on our priorities, right? And they are until the collaborators of Black Leaders Collective say, I don't want this to be a priority anymore, I think we need a shift, and we make a strategy around that shift, we stick to our plan. And that is the reason why we have been so effective, because we don't allow the climate or this current environment sway us back and forth from our priorities. What we decided, we usually do our planning sessions in the beginning of the year. We take about 3 months to decide what we're doing for the rest of the year. Okay. Once we decide on those priorities, that is what we're doing. Unless, of course, something catastrophic happens like Winter Storm Uri. I remember that like took us on a whole new loop, right? Or something of that caliber. We're not really like worried about this current climate. Okay. We are going to effectuate what we said we were going to effectuate. And that is the reason why we have been the catalyst to things like the Black Men's Health Clinic, things like the Black Fund of Central Texas, things like pushing and getting what City of Austin approved. We got the Public Health Commission approved. You know, I mean, there's been a slew of things that we have done in just 4 years, right? 5 years, a slew of things that we have done because we are focused on what we're focused on, not what the world is trying to get us to, you know, to distract us to focus on. Got it. And that to us has been really effective.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know, one, you're a mother.
I am.
You're a wife.
I am.
How do you balance those things with, you know, leadership, writing, entrepreneurship? Like what daily practices or like philosophies help you manage it all?
Whoa, daily practice or philosophies. Well, the first philosophy I'll tell you is there is no such thing as balance for me. Okay. I don't believe in balance. I don't think it's a real thing.
Got it.
Anytime that me personally, I try to create some sphere of balance, I start to go into a depression or not feel like I'm doing well enough. Right. So for me, balance is not a thing. I am more like a juggler, right? Okay. In the fact that when one ball is high in the air, I don't have to worry about it too much, exactly. Right? Yeah. The ones that I'm focused on are the ones coming closer to the ground, right? And my job is to pop them back in the air. So those that aren't doing so well get my priority and get my attention. Those that are doing okay, they stay in the air until they come falling down again, right? Got it. So that is my kind of philosophy. I'm a juggler. There's no such thing as balance. Understood. In my home, one of the things that my husband and I have made clear to each other and to our and have promised our family is that we come first. Okay. Our little unit is the revolution. So if anything interferes with mommy time, with wife time, it is gonna have to be on pause until otherwise, right? Thanks. And that is just the bottom line. You know, the other piece is time management, right? So, you know, up to a month out, I'm knowing where family time is, where girl time is, where bae time is, where work time is, where community time is. I am a time manager. If you look at my calendar right now, and I'm happy to the T. Right. If it's not on my calendar, it's not happening, right? And then lastly, two things. The other thing is, just being okay with doing your best in a day, whatever that looks like. It's okay. The to-do list is forever. I used to try to run and try to get my to-do list done. That's not even a thing for me because when I finish one task, 2 things will come back on my to-do list, right? So there's no such thing as the to-do list ending. For me, it's about what can I do? What's the best that I can do in that day, right? Okay. And ideally, on average, it's about finalizing or completing 3 big tasks in a day. Okay. If I can complete 3 big things, then I feel successful, right? But there are some days where I've got to rest and, you know, and I'm not feeling it at all. And my body is telling me to shut down. And I listen to that too. And that may not mean that I'm doing a lot production-wise, work-wise, but I've listened to my body and I've done right, you know, by my body and my mind and my soul, right? And so that to me is productive in itself.
Recharge.
Yeah, you got to recharge, right? And then, you know, again, I just want to, the last and most important thing is your team. A lot of the people, you know, I get to be the ambassador or the front face of things, but it's really my team that is behind me, pushing me and propelling me forward, right? It's my team in place that I don't even have to speak to most days. And I know that they have done their job. They reported back with the things that they've done. Like it is like that, right? You know, when you're building a company, you've got to have company, right? And so, you know, for me, I can be in 5, 6, 7 places because my team is really there. I just get to come on like an AI, like I'm not even real right now. I'm just kidding.
Right.
But right now the work is still happening while I'm speaking to you, Zeus. You know what I'm saying? It will continue to happen all night long through tomorrow.
Right.
That is the power of my team. So again, I am a team facilitator. And as long as I'm doing well by my team, they're going to do well by me.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about the future.
Yeah.
Right. So as somebody who's deeply invested in the community and the city as a whole, what's your vision for Black Austin? Like say 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where do you see the progress of our community being at that time in the future?
Yeah, that's a big question, Zeus. Firstly, I'd say that, for me, success looks like the fact that Black people love Black people to the core again.
Okay. I like that.
A lot of the time I see, and this is one of the reasons why BLC was started, I see a lot of the backbiting, the fighting, the hurt, the pain, leaders not working with other leaders, constituents having challenges with the leaders, so they'll try to sabotage them or out them or hurt them, right? And that to me is mind-blowing. I realize that we can shift all of this if we learn to love each other again. And that is truly the first part of the work for Black Leaders Collective. I mentioned, that one of the things that came up, one of the priorities for us was addressing our internalized racism. That is it. Because if we do anything, I don't care if it's building a new school or starting some affordable housing, work units, whatever. If we do all of that with the same framework, the same mindset, the same supremacy culture mindset that we were born and bred into, to your point, if we don't shift that mindset to knowing that we are all we got, that we are truly brothers and sisters, and when you hurt, I hurt.
Right.
When I hurt, you hurt. Right? When your roof is caving in, it is my responsibility to help you tack it back together, right? When we come back to a place of love, everything shifts. We can have anything that our hearts desire. We can build back, because we've done that a million times. Let's be very clear. We talk about, Black Wall Street and Tulsa, Oklahoma. We've done that a million times. People don't talk about the hundreds of Black Wall Streets that were all over America, right? We don't talk about the fact that there were 22 freedmen towns right here in Austin, Texas, that populated Black people, and they had their own master plan communities that they built and bought themselves, right? So I'm not worried about rebuilding. I'm worried about our thought process.
Okay.
I'm worried about our mental shifts and ensuring that that there's love there, that there's consideration there. Everything else, once there's love, you can build an empire. We can take back what's ours.
Right.
But if we build another thing with this suppressive thought process of crabs in a barrel, then anything that we build will quickly dissolve, right? And other people are looking at us and laughing because we're our own demise.
Right.
We haven't gotten far in Austin. We let East Austin go because, yes, of course, yes, taxes was a thing. But if we came together and said, you're not going, that's my grandmama too.
Yeah.
Her taxes are my taxes.
Exactly.
Right. And if we all pool together $100, now she's good and we can move on. We put it in a trust. We make sure that that's not touched no more. That comes from a place of love.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that I can ask for in the next 5 years, is that we continue to strengthen our relationship as a people, that we see ourselves as one unit. Because we've done a lot of work, but it is all for naught if we don't see ourselves as both the problem and the solution.
Got it.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so on a more personal note, right? So I know between the writing, the philanthropy, the tech, the beauty, the entrepreneurship, all those different things, right? You're building an incredible legacy, right? But with that said, though, outside of the titles and the roles, who do you like? Who is Terry P. Mitchell at her core?
Yeah.
Like, how would you define yourself in that way?
Whew, to the core, I am a little girl,
Okay.
a little baby girl that sees the beauty in everybody and everything. Still scared, still shy.
Yeah.
I love art. I love to play. I love people. I love dancing. I love to be social. I am just a little girl, right? And
Right.
the more that I get to play with her, the more that I am my fullest self. The more that I really tap into the little girl in me is when I am my most full self, my most vulnerable self. I have so many visions, so many dreams, just like a little girl, right? That thinks she could be all things, a singer 1 minute, a doctor the next, right? That's still how I operate in life, right?
Yeah.
And I'm so fortunate that I now have a little girl that's 5 years old. And I get to see how she operates, and I realize that's who I want to be. You know what I mean? I want to be this free little girl that has, every opportunity at her footstep, and she gets to play in the world. Life is so short. It shouldn't just be to work, pay bills, and die, right? Where are your passions? What do you love to do, right? How do you love on others, right? I think that is who I am to the core. That's who I want to be to the core. That's what I'm trying to exercise to the core every day. So I'm doing it in the adult version, but to the core, I'm still a little girl that, has still big dreams, right? Still wants to just gallivant through the world and enjoy it, but still make a legacy and a mark for myself, for my family, for my community.
Gotcha.
That's who I am.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so final question of the night, right?
Okay.
So I know we actually talked about this before off air. So we asked this question to all of our guests, right? So you've gotten a chance to, sit down at the podcast, have amazing conversation, have a good vibe, right? So with all of that said, who do you think would be a good guest for the podcast in the future? But before you answer, this has to be somebody in your contacts, in your phone. Like, hey, I pulled up to the 2-hour lunch break. I would love to y'all need to come on and, hop on the show. Who would that person or people be?
Yeah, two come to mind, and I'm sure there's a million, but the first would be Dr. Melva K. Wallace. She is the president and CEO of Houston-Tillotson University. She is such a vibe, okay? She is like the girl from around the way, but she don't play like that, right? And so you get the best of both worlds with Dr. Melva. I'm so inspired by what she's doing at Houston-Tillotson University. She's definitely moving that school from first to foremost. And I see her vision, and I anyone and everyone that I believe needs to meet her. So that's one. Okay. The other one I'd say is Mr. Eric Bird. Eric, he's, he was lifting up District 1 City Council. And now he's the executive director for Finding Home ATX. And they are building affordable housing units, and he's creating equitable practices and ensuring that Black and brown people have beautiful place, not just a place to stay, but something that they'd be proud of, right? And so I think the work that he's doing and his love for community, him being a native Austinite as well, certainly grants him a seat at the table, a seat at on the podcast.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay. I say y'all heard it here. Dr. Wallace, Mr. Bird, let's go ahead and lock
Dr. Wallace, Mr. Bird, come on down.
Come on through. Man, before we wrap up, let's plug your social media handles. Where can everybody find you and all of your businesses and projects? Yes,
absolutely. Holler at me. I do follow back. I'm on IG, Facebook, and LinkedIn. They're all Terry with the Y, TERRYP Mitchell. So you can find me there, and I'll follow you right back. Check out my businesses. You can go to Austin Woman on all the platforms. You can go to Ian Co Tech at all the platforms. Level Recruiting. What else? I mean, all of them. Black Leaders Collective, the Black Fund of Central Texas. They're all on all of the platforms.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that wraps up this edition of the 2 Hour Lunch Break podcast. Once again, shout out to Miss Terry P. Mitchell for taking the time to kick it with us. Shout out to our production behind the boards. You can find them on Instagram at Cafe Yodo. Episodes of the 2 Hour Lunch Break are streaming on all DSPs, and you can find us on Instagram and X at 2HLB All episodes of the podcast are recorded and produced right here at Dawa Studios in East Austin, Texas.
Shout out to Dawa.
Right. Thank you for tuning in, and we out.
Bye.
Hey.
And it's coming home to Texas. It's coming home all the way to Austin, Texas, baby.